I was driving into the studio today, and before I get into today's topic, I just want to say thank you. I get some of the most gracious comments that you could imagine. And let's face it, I understand that not every video is a home run. I absolutely know that. The production team knows that. I really try and make every video a home run, but not everyone is. Some of them are doubles, some of them are singles. There's not many strikeouts. We work really hard to not put out any strikeouts, but sometimes it's a home run, sometimes it's a double. But what I have found more than anything is, to some people, it is a home run. To some people, it may be a strikeout. That's okay. I can tell you that we as a team do everything that we can to put out content which is gracious and kind, but yet redemptive and full of hope. I never want to just gloss over the fact that so many of you take time out of your day to leave these incredibly humbling and encouraging comments that mean the world to me, mean the world to our production team. And so on behalf of the team and myself, thank you. I don't want you to think that they are ignored or taken for granted. I simply can't keep up, don't have an assistant, don't have the funds to hire an assistant to answer these comments for me, and simply will keep trying my best. But please understand, your feedback is valued. Your kindness is appreciated and means the world to us. Today I'm going to talk to you about something that was an absolute game changer for me. Until I hit this point in my repair work, it was kind of like if you've ever driven a stick shift, or nowadays they say manual. There's a point where you miss a gear, right? Typically it might be going from first to second or from second to third, and you kind of stall. You hit this point where the momentum should kick in and you should go to the next gear, but there is this lull, this stall, and the car may be moving, but you're not moving at the speed that you should be moving at. You stall. Sometimes we even can stall out, the engine turns off, and we're stuck. And until I got to this point, I think there was movement. There really was. But it was at a fraction of the speed that I would get to once I hit this point. And the point is that, sure, Samantha had some stuff going on. Now, her stuff does not justify my infidelity. I've said that a million times. Her stuff does not make it okay that I acted out. Said that a million times. But she did have stuff. And in my dysfunction, in my, call it narcissistic stall out, in my self-absorption, and we could go on, I fixated on her stuff, her issues. And as long as I did that, I was never able to see my repair work take off. But more so than just fixating on her stuff, there came a point where I had to understand that unless I was willing to own some things about me, I would never get where I needed to get or wanted to get. I could say, and I could give lip service all day long, and I could kind of find the right things to say, but there came a point where my mentor had to kind of sit me down and say, yeah, and he did it in a very strategic way. He said, yeah, Samantha is X, Y, and Z. But let's talk about you. My mentor had this moment where he drew a line in the sand and said, let me ask you something. What do you think you need to own about you? And again, he validated the truth that, okay, sure, Samantha has X, Y, and Z. What are you willing to own about you, though? See, Rick says it this way: until you can accept where you are at, you'll never get to where you want to be. And until you can accept who you are, you'll never be able to get to who you want to be. And until you can accept what you need to accept about you, I'm going to tell you, as an unfaithful spouse, your recovery work, your repair work, your own personal momentum is going to remain stalled. It's going to time out. You'll keep buffering and buffering, never really experiencing this sense of almost like turbo momentum where you go, man, I'm really doing some work and I'm seeing breakthrough in my own life. This is a litmus test for maturity. This is a litmus test for humility and the ability to own, as an unfaithful, what you need to own. And I will tell you, all you have to do is kind of watch one of my videos and look at the comments for how this plays out. Until the betrayed feels like you're willing to own your side of the unfaithful actions that you have resorted to, until you are willing to let the light be shined upon you, until you're willing to accept what you've done and the consequences of what you've done, you're not going to see the betrayed spouse, male or female, really be open to talking about struggles in their own life or unmet needs that you felt because of where they were at mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, what have you. Until you're safe enough that you have owned your stuff, you're not going to see their heart get vulnerable again. You're not going to see them open up and be willing to say, well, what were you frustrated about in the marriage? Let's talk about that. It's a sensitive discussion that will never come with any amount of impact or effectiveness until the betrayed spouse feels safe. If you're a betrayed spouse, you might say, well, what led up to this kind of breakthrough moment? If you're an unfaithful, you might say, okay, well, how do I get there? Well, here's a few things that created space for me to get it and to own some things about me. Here's what I would suggest that you invest time in as an unfaithful if you really want to see your recovery go to the next gear. If you want to see momentum in your own healing work, you'll need a few things. Number one is you'll need objectivity. If you're going to continue to consult with people who will continually reinforce why you're bitter, what you're bitter about, that your spouse didn't do X, Y, and Z, you're never going to find objectivity. You're going to stay stuck. You're going to reinforce the bitterness and the resentment that you are feeling towards your spouse anyway. Objectivity is key. Someone who can sit in the situation with you and give you objective help, objective insight, and objective opinions, if you will, about where you are at as an individual, how you're reacting, how you're carrying yourself, and what you're doing in your own repair work. I think you'll also need community. You see, that's one of the great strengths of the courses that we have at affairrecovery.com is community of people who will stand with you and support you to where you don't feel so alone. Infidelity is one of the most isolating things that can happen to a person or that we can do to ourselves. When we can get into an environment that is supportive and redemptive and not just about commiserating and not just feeling sorry for each other and not just kind of reinforcing our dysfunction or our resentment or our bent, if you will, towards anger and hostility, but is a community of, hey, I see you. I see where you're at. I'm there too. Or I was there. Or I'm stuck too. Or, man, you're not alone. When you can have that, it's life-changing. On the heels of that is the next concept, if you will, of accountability. You see, my mentor was graciously tough. He would tell me, you know what you've just said sounds to me very self-absorbed, or that sounds really arrogant. Let me tell you why. Or, hey, let's vet that out a little bit. Do you mean this? Because if you mean this, you're full of crap. Do you mean this? Because if you mean that, man, you're missing it, and here's why. Or, do you mean this? If that's what you mean, man, I support you. I love you. I'm here with you. But I'm going to hold you accountable. What are you doing? Did you go to your group? Have you read this? What are you working on? Where are you in your journey? A crucial factor in recovery work of any sort is safety for you. Is it safe where you're going? Are you getting objectivity? Are you getting honesty? Are you getting compassion? Are you receiving hope? If not, those places are not safe for you. Are you being advised to continue in your illicit behavior, which is destructive to yourself and to your spouse or partner? It's not safe. Wherever you are getting help has to be safe for you. One of the crucial aspects that you'll also need is, and this is going to be tough, humility. If you can't receive negative feedback from a safe environment that's based upon all of the concepts I've already explained, you're going to find yourself going backwards and not forwards. I had to receive tough feedback, really critical feedback at times. I did receive some feedback that wasn't right, but because I was in a safe environment, I was able to understand that some of that was just not accurate, but this stuff over here in a safe, redemptive, objective environment was absolutely accurate, and I needed to own that and accept it. Because if you can't come from a posture of humility, you're going to continue to feel justified in your bitterness, in your resentment, in your anger, in your justifications, and all of the ways that you continue to justify your behavior. You're going to find yourself more and more alone. You see, if I have to tell you that I'm humble, something's wrong. Humility should be observed. There's a way to communicate with your betrayed spouse very humbly. And you're not going to be good at it early on. It's going to take time. It's going to take work. It's going to take some of the things I've been talking about to get to a place of true, legitimate humility that your spouse or partner observes. I think one of the most essential ingredients, and I've saved it for last, is the concept of committing to this process. If you can't commit to this, your spouse, your partner is going to really feel unsafe. You're going to miss out on what's available for you because you're not committing to a process of owning what you need to own. If you can't commit to these things, I just think get ready to constantly feel a stall. And you'll gain a little bit of momentum, but then immediately stall out. Because without these ingredients, you're frustrating the people around you. And you may not even see that you're frustrating your own momentum. I hope that you'll embrace what is not an exhaustive list, but definitely has some key concepts for repair work, for restoration, for you being able to get out of the rut that you are in and experience new life and maybe even a new marriage.